Amerikaner greifen an. Alles hinter die Stacheldrahte.
The last fight of the American infantry in Europe took place in Czechoslovakia, in a town called Falkenau Vault, and then the town Falkenau, and then near the town. That was the last battle that took place. The irony of it is that we didn't know at the time that this was the Sudetenland, where in 1938 or 39, whatever the hell it was, Mr. Umbrella Man called Neville Chamberlain, Prime Minister of Britain, returned after his visit with the Führer and with blessings from Goebbels and Goering, and he said, "Peace will prevail." And he shook his umbrella for the newsreel cameraman. There'll be no war. See? That is the place. Well, where it all began, 7, 8 years before that, ended geographically, ironically, bitterly, and historically in the same goddamn place. The road was flanked by both stone and wooden houses, large and small barracks. Right now, they're gone with the exception of several remnants of the foundation made out of stone of a barrack just like this, similar to this. And as we ran down this way, you'll notice another building on the right. There are flank openings on it, and the German machine gunners were in there, a section there, a section there, and a section beyond the house. In order to knock them out, we would go alongside the buildings quickly and throw grenades. Run, throw grenades, run. And anyway, this is the way we took Falkenau. And everything has changed except one thing. They forgot to remove the stone foundation of this barracks. And now I'll get my ass down there and join you fellows. That gives you a very good idea when you run along like this, up there, see, just like this, the wall here, and you take the goddamn grenade and you throw it. War is so insane. Organized insanity is war, but it's so insane, it's impossible for anybody to appreciate the word insanity unless you are in combat. In war, we actually got used to seeing violence, horrible things, but we never thought that we would ever come across anything that would make that whole nightmare seem almost a holiday, except at Falkenau. In Tunisia, I wrote to my mother to send me a movie camera. It took her over a year and a half or more. I was 43. In Bamberg, Germany, I received a 16mm Bellenhau, which you have to crank. First man I ran into was Captain Walker. He said, "Do you still have that camera your mother sent you?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Get it." I returned with my camera, loaded and all that, walked right into the camp, and didn't know that I was going to shoot my first movie. What you see is exactly what I shot. It might be the work of an amateur, but the killings in this are very professional. This is the only film where civilians are in a camp doing what these people have done. It's the first and last time this happened in the war. The men carrying the shovels were handpicked by Richmond because they said they didn't know anything about a camp near the village, right on the outskirts, and they smelled nothing. Utilizing his own responsibility, he went out and got these men, who are the leading citizens of Falkenau. It's about 12 or 14. And he not only going to teach them a lesson about throwing people like this right into the death house, like they're little pieces of garbage, he's going to do something that hasn't happened before in any camp, concentration camp or labor camp, in Hitler's history of murder. These are the prisoners watching the show. The prisoners were sitting on the ground like this. The first body that was brought out, they all stood up at the same time. Around here is the death house area where the bodies, packed like cordwood, were carried out and lined out right out here on the white bed sheets and on the tablecloths, and fully dressed by these people who claimed they knew nothing of a camp. You see houses all around you here. They knew nothing of the camp's existence and could not smell the stench of death. It was more than a stench, it was a stink. That is about the most ridiculous lie anyone could utter. Captain Richmond's order of the day was to take out all these corpses
and dress them while they were stretched out on bed sheets, so their exit from this world would have some kind of dignity. As you see, they are taking all bed sheets, shirts, tablecloths, anything they could get, and under his orders, they were supposed to and did dress the corpses that you saw taken out of the death house. The tension was unimaginable. It's a powder keg. It's a minefield, actually. If one man objected to what he was doing, I'm afraid all hell would break loose then. The smell of gangrenous flesh is why these men are holding their handkerchiefs to their noses. The Russians had occupied this part of Czechoslovakia after we took Falkenau, and it was an American idea to teach people not to lie about either brutally flogging, whipping, or starving other human beings to death. So Captain Richmond of I Company decided to teach them a lesson. He blew his top when they said, "I don't smell anything." I didn't know what was going on. That's Richmond himself. Now, the man in gray hair with the long coat and the golf pants was a very important banker in Falkenau. The other men were the leading VIPs of Falkenau. Richmond personally handpicked each man, each citizen of the town. He didn't threaten them, he just ordered them. He ordered them in English and they knew what he said. Normally, if we came across this before May the 8th and found the people like that, we'd have shot every son of a bitch responsible for it. But in war, when somebody signs a piece of paper saying the war is over and you killed someone, the verb is murder. So we couldn't kill them or murder them. That's the remainder of our squad, first squad. I just told them to look at the camera. That was in the last battle. We were 7 men, we lost 4. Now, this is a shot showing you the close proximity of the town of Falkenau with the camp. There are the houses, and we're going to go right past them later. That's how close. It's one shot. There's no cut. I just panned from the houses in the field of brush there to the camp. It's one pan. You can see how close it is. There's the shot. And still not a cut. That means that probably kids played around there on top, and they could look down and see all these people. Huh. I never thought of that before, Emil, never. Because kids like to play on hills, little games, run up the hill, run down the hill. We only had a few soldiers here. The rest of the company and battalion were right outside this camp. Had there been any demonstration, there would have been hell to pay. This is the Russian Surgeon General now, speaking to those standing up on the hill and telling those cruelest and most necessary decisions any surgeon, medical surgeon, a doctor has to make, and the man was right in doing it. He is telling one group that they have suffered to such an extent of malnutrition, it's almost impossible to try to revive them. He's telling another group that they have contagious diseases. They cannot be cured. They must remain in this prison and die here. 1/3 of these people. He tells the third group they can live. And the irony of the whole thing is that these poor fellows who are, I don't know how long they were in this camp, but they see they're liberated, they see they're free. They had a living death while they were in there, and now it'll be a dying life for them. That man you see holding his salute like that, that's called, I call him Iron Mike. His salute was not for these dead, but for everybody who died in every camp, any goddamn kind of a camp. That's that salute. That's all it is. It's for nothing else. It's nothing emotional or even heroic. It's just an acknowledgement. I had one advantage. I was kept busy doing all this, what you're seeing, where the others just had to watch. It was an ordeal for everybody. Nothing happened to these men who are carrying the dead. Apparently, the officers in charge thought they had suffered enough punishment, not only dressing the dead, but now being told they are going to walk through the town of Falkenau to show the people evidence that they claimed they knew nothing about, never heard any stories about it, despite the fact that a lot of them lived there within 50 feet of what was going on. You see, the Red Star was put up immediately. By the time I got my camera, there's a ladder against the Red Star by the Russians. Now, this is right outside the camp. It's going to be a very short walk to the grave. And here you will see recently captured German prisoners. They're lined up there to see what happens to people who lie about a camp. And those prisoners, by the way, was a toss-up of a coin whether we took them back or the Russians. There's a little boy who thinks it's all a game, and he was firing his pop gun, his little rifle, enjoying it. Now, to climb up this little grade was very, very rough for these men, not because of the weight, but they have to live with the people after we go, the people in their town. Captain Richmond did not want any vehicle to transport the bodies to where they're going. They had to be pulled and pushed by the men who said no one died in that camp atrociously. But on the other side is a big area for what Captain Richmond called to be buried in style like a human being. Now, Richmond just passed him, and he said, "Take your goddamn hat off," and he did. That man on the right. And as I was saying, that a lot of these people, fascists, Nazis, whatever the hell you want to call them, they say it's all one big myth. Forget whether it's 6 million Jews or 4 million Protestants or 3 million Baptists or 18 million Lutherans, whatever it is. They forget that Hitler killed a lot of people, his own people. They forget all that. And there are people alive today that say that this is just a minor thing in history, like Le Pen of France. There are people in the United States who say the whole thing is a myth. Nobody was tortured, nobody was killed, nobody was starved to death, nobody was gassed, and nobody was cremated, dead or alive. So this is just a sample in a small town. And from what I heard, there are many of these little camps around this place, and they call them labor camps. It's a Hitler Jugend boy He had to get in there, and there was no expression on his face. I couldn't do what he's doing. He stepped among them. Richmond said, "You step on a foot, I'll smash your head in." The boy didn't have to be told what it meant. He knew it was a threat. It's very difficult to walk among dead and not step on them. Very difficult. Now, this is the honor guard. These are the healthiest people in the camp. And there you have the honor of throwing the first, as you know, the custom in many religions, of earth. Instead of hitting boxes, they hit the bed sheets of Falkenau. This is just a very brief lesson of humanity, killing humanity and burying humanity and walking away from inhumanity. I hope a lot of Nazis will think twice when they say it's impossible, we ever did know this, and we never had anything to do with it. When I say Nazi, I mean anyone who condones what a Nazi does, or denies that a Nazi has done it. Very easy to remember those faces as far as I'm concerned. It's an impossible nightmare I'll never forget.
Now, the record of this organized insanity is this diagram. The green circles, each one represents a camp. The red circles are the command posts of the headquarters of the commandant of each camp. And these 2 pages is our record for all the generations to come to remember how many people were killed in different fashions by the Nazis. Unfortunately, we've been trained that when you are wearing a uniform and another man is wearing a different uniform, you kill each other because you are told to kill. You are obviously a killer. You have the uniform of a killer. That's called a soldier. But when you kill millions of people and starve them, and when you brutally beat the hell out of them, when you subject them to all kinds of inhuman medical tests, when you use them as guinea pigs, that has nothing to do with saying, I am a soldier and I have to obey. That's pure criminal insanity. That is why the expression crimes against humanity was born. Had I known what was going to happen and that this city would be picked for the first time in civilization, wherein the word war criminal was introduced and where war criminals were charged, questioned, photographed, were on trial individually, and were executed. If I had known that that was going to be here and that they would pick members of the 1st U.S. Infantry Division, the big red one, to guard these prisoners, I would have remained in Germany. So the infamous trials of Nuremberg started here in this courtroom, beginning with 4 judges representing the Allied nations, Russia, France, Great Britain, United States. The room was jammed with cameras, with people with still photographers and all that. The room was jammed with a half a dozen or 8 or 10 interpreters with earphones. The room was jammed with balconies. And the room also had something that's very, very important you cannot see here. But there was a panel here, and that panel is what I want to talk about as far as crimes of humanity, against humanity are concerned. Now, they changed this quite a little bit. They had all these rows here, out here. They had 2 rows for the war criminals. And standing behind each criminal at attention was a soldier of the U.S. Army and from my division. I'd have given anything to have stood behind Hermann Goering, whose favorite seat was right here, where he'd sit with his little arm extended this way. Now, these men, in turn, were charged with crimes by a prosecutor who was here, and his mic was here. The criminal was there. His mic was there. Everyone could see the face of the criminal, everyone. And when the trial began, there was tremendous documentation offered by a row of attorneys rightfully representing their clients. And they had all the evidence they wanted. But when the prosecutors, such as Jackson, a lawyer representing Uncle Sam, when he asked the question of a man sitting right there, were you present when such and such an atrocity was committed? No. Where were you? 30 miles away. You now swear that you were not in that area at all? No. So Mr. Jackson would say to the projectionist up there, start the movie.
Again and again, the same question was asked. Were you present? Were you involved? Did you witness? Did you order? Again and again. And again and again, the order was, run the movie. Run the movie. Tie them up. We must prove that these men were involved both by responsibility and by their presence of committing heinous crimes against people. Not just war crimes of soldier against soldier, but mass crimes of executions, of gassing, of starvation, of brutality, mass crimes. That's what humanity is all about. Through movies, over a period of many generations, children are taught not to hate. They're taught not to be violent. They're taught when they see anything that we have just seen to rebel against it because it's instinctively inhuman. It's wrong. That's why a camera is very important to me, and that's why I love movies. We just don't educate. With film, we can make progress in history, in civilization, so that nobody can lie about things that you have just seen.
The question I ask myself for years, if we can do movies with this subject, no? If we can witness and teach with fiction, because documentary it's one thing, but fiction, no, because representation, to represent something, is to present one more time.
Right.
No? So the question is if we can't to represent something who you call impossible.
Definitely. The footage shot by the Germans, the footage shot by me, or if there's any footage in existence that I know about shot by anyone else, will always be used for the next 1,000 years as evidence. No matter how it's used in regular movies, it'll be used.
But you speak about documents, not
No, I'm talking about the real documentaries.
Yeah.
Will be used in a movie the way I used it in Verboten. They'll use it for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Where somebody in the year 3,500 will say, this is silly, it's never happened. This is in the movie. But the documentary should not be released as a documentary. The documentary has to be part of a motion picture. You have to become very, very much in love and interested in a character. And through that character who sees it, you see him change. Do you understand?
Yes.
You see him believe it.
Okay.
Sick, they need medicine. sick, they need medicine. They're sick, they need medicine. They're sick, they...
What medicine?
It was just a bad dream.
Oh, now what is this about medicine?
I told you it was a bad dream.
Why haven't you undressed? Now,
I found them.
who is the leader of these hoodlums?
Who are you to call us hoodlums?
By looting, killing, stealing food from our own people and selling it on the black market, what would you say they are?
They are for Hitler.
Oh, Franz, the first to suffer under Hitler were the Germans.
That's a lie.
The first to be thrown in concentration camps were anti-Nazi Germans.
He only put the Jews there, the Jews and Poles and all the enemies who started the war against us.
He killed German Catholics, German Protestants.
You're a liar.
He killed German Lutherans, German priests, German old men, German old women, German cripples, German sick, German insane.
He's
German
right, you have sold out to the enemy.
Who is right? Tell me, Franz, who told you I sold out to the enemy? If I can prove to you what the Nazis did, would you believe me?
You'll show me nothing but lies.
You're afraid?
A werewolf is never afraid.
If I am wrong, I will help you fight the Americans.
You will, you promise?
I swear it.
International Military Tribunal Number 1. The United States of America, the French Republic, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic against the defendants Hermann Wilhelm Goering, Rudolf Hess, Joachim von Ribbentrop, Julius Streicher, Franz von Papen, Hjalmar Schacht, Karl Dönitz, Erich Raeder, Baldur von Schirach, Fritz Sokol, Alfred Jodl, Martin Bormann, Arthur Sessinquart, Albert Speer, Konstantin von Neurath, and Hans Fritzsche, individually and as members of any of the following groups or organizations to which they respectively belonged: the Reich Cabinet, the Leadership Corps of the Nazi Party, the SS, the SD, the Gestapo, the SA, and the General Staff and High Command of the German Armed Forces. Justice Robert H. Jackson, the chief American prosecutor, makes the opening statement for the prosecution. The privilege of opening the first trial in history for crimes against the peace of the world imposes a grave responsibility. In the prisoner's dock sit 20-odd broken men, reproached by the humiliation by those they have led almost as bitterly by the desolation of those they have attacked. What makes this inquest significant is that these prisoners represent sinister influences that will lurk in the world long after their bodies have returned to dust. They are the living symbols of arrogance, cruelty, power, racial hatred, terrorism, and violence. The United States of America presents count 1 of the indictment that all defendants participated as organizers or accomplices in a common plan or conspiracy to commit crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. We will show you the defendants' own film. You will see their own conduct in the course of the conspiracy. Its history is the history of the Nazi Party that grew from the brawling streets of Munich in the 20s. Their aim was the highest degree of control over the German community. Give me 5 years. Today, Germany. Tomorrow, the world. The Nazi Party alone has the right to rule Germany and the right to destroy the enemy.
The werewolf alone has a right to rule Germany and a right to destroy the enemy.
Martin Bormann, last seen alive May 2nd, 1945, fate unknown, tried in absentia, said The enemy is to work for us. And so far as we don't need them, they must die.
The enemy is to work for us, and so far as we do not need them, they must die.
German anti-Nazis were the first victims. Medical experiments were standard procedure at many concentration camps for Germans who did not agree with Hitler. Defendant Frick, as Minister of the Interior, directed the Nazi program aimed at aged, insane, crippled, or incurable Germans, the so-called useless eaters. Thousands were committed to special institutions. Few of the German anti-Nazis ever returned. Evidence proved they were murdered because they were useless to Hitler's plans. A most intense drive was directed by Hitler and his Nazis against German Protestants, Lutherans, Catholics. Pastor Niemöller was sent to a concentration camp. Bishop Graeber was beaten up. Hitler inspired vandalism against church property. Nazi teaching was inconsistent with the Christian faith. It was the Nazi plan to suppress the Christian church completely after the war.
The old Christian era lasted but 2,000 years and is a failure.
But with the war, the number of victims swelled to include citizens of all the nations in Europe. Included among the executed and burned were citizens from Holland, France, Belgium, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Greece, and other countries. But perhaps the greatest crime against humanity the Nazis committed was against the Jews, whom they used as the scapegoat to camouflage their plan to make Hitler God and to make Mein Kampf the Bible. Goebbels was Hitler's trumpet. Goebbels catered to children, filled them with campaign cries that went to the heart of the Nazi movement. Hate was the Nazi religion. Hate was their battle cry. Hate was their God.
Hate! Hate! And again hate!
Children of tender years were invariably exterminated since they were unable to work. The Nazis endeavored to fool them into thinking they were going through a delousing process. 1,000 years will pass, and this guilt of the Hitler gang will still not be erased. It took from 3 to 15 minutes to kill the people in the gas chamber, depending on the climatic conditions. The Nazis knew when the people were dead because the screaming stopped. After the bodies were removed, special Hitler commandos took off the rings and extracted the gold from the teeth of the corpses. Much of this loot was then transferred to secret vaults of the Reichsbank at Frankfurt on Main. This was genocide, the premeditated destruction of entire peoples. Genocide, the direct result of the Nazis' claim that they have the right to destroy Hitler's opposition. Tomorrow the world, dead or alive.
Hans, I want you to look. Hans, you've got to look. We will look together. This is something we should see. Everyone should see. The whole world should see. Hans, believe it, did you? Hans, look.
So, to finalize your question, yes, I can make a concentration camp movie. However, I said obstacles. It would be difficult to get the money to make a legitimate concentration camp story, because people financing you would be indirectly or impartially guilty of something that happened. The banks would. The theater owner would not like certain things. They like the idea of a concentration camp picture, and they know there's going to be a prison break, this man is innocent, and he escapes. There's boom, boom, boom after him. He hides under a train, he hides in a truck, he hides in a plane, he hides in a wagon, he hides in a ditch, he hides in a cellar, he hides on a roof. All of those have been made and will be made. And he wins, but he doesn't win. He never will win, because he is the audience. That one man. I keep only one thing in mind. To concentrate on concentration. And that's what they missed in pictures as far as I'm concerned. And the concentration is the fear of nothing. And then it's done, quickly. Of nothing. Now that you can get on a screen. foundation of the entire motion picture would be not just the loss of the dignity of man, but the loss of the birth of all men. When you do that as a movie, all your violence has to be emotional. It's got to be the inside of a man. And only a camera can do it with a good actor. Only a camera. Where he slowly disintegrates. He begins to crumble inside. And the desire to live is no longer a desire to live. He does not know what's going on. He does not know what's going to happen tomorrow.
June. Hold.
But you have to make the audience feel the way that man feels. In other words, that man has to make an audience go through hell with him. I would want the audience to yell, to stop.
Hans, I want you to look. Hans, you've got to look. We will look together. This is something we should see. Everyone should see. The whole world should see. Hans, believe it, did you? Hans, look.
Here in a concentration camp, it's not just this man you're talking about, it's what he sees. And 150, 200 people go out, and they never come back. That is called the concentration of fear. I would only hit on that one word, concentration. And the most important thing is to show how low a human being can sink.
I have here a little extract of Le Specimen, the human specimen of Robert Antelme. He described, he look in a mirror, and the image, he see the image, and this image is not him. I mean,
I understand
I mean,
that's great.
His human condition have not image.
That's great. That's
so
great.
The question is how to do fiction, image, which with something who from inside have no image.
How you shoot it is impossible.
From outside, maybe you can't make an image.
No, you can do that.
From outside?
No.
From inside?
Not, and from inside. It's what that man looks like when he looks in a mirror. If you get a hell of an actor, it tells you exactly what you just said. That he's not there, he's dead, but he's looking at himself alive. Nothing is impossible with a camera, my boy. Ha ha, nothing. The thing is to have it shown on the screen. That could be difficult.